Easter is approaching, and a lot of us are getting ready for that. But to our Jewish siblings, they are getting ready for Pesach, for Passover. For those of us who are in community with Judaism, it is important for us to both remember this holiday, remember what it is, and fulfill our purpose in it. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about this one. This one, I think, has the chance of being a bit more controversial than some of our others because it's, for some people, going to be like the whole white sage argument all over again. Because if we've learned anything from doing this podcast is people like to appropriate other cultures. Today, we're going to be talking about how not to appropriate Judaism and what Passover is and what we as non-Jews can do to celebrate this holiday. Let's talk about that today. Totally uncontroversial topic as we walk together down Creation's path. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan druid, and I'm sous chef to the Dagda.
Today, we are going to be talking about Passover, about how, as non-Jewish people, we can appropriately practice and celebrate this holiday, which is coming up very, very soon, and how we can practice it in community with our Jewish siblings. Totally not going to be a controversial episode at all. I expect nothing but sunshine and light in the comments. And I'm going to say this right off the bat because I don't think people take me seriously. Any anti-Semitism that is posted in the comments will be deleted and you will be blocked from the channel. Thank you. Before we continue, though, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be and whatever the app is you are listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday. And you don't want to miss the thing, especially with Holy Week coming up. We're going to do 7 episodes in a row from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday, looking at this at Holy Week from a Christopagan perspective. So, yeah, you don't want to miss anything. It's going to be crazy. All right, let's just get into it now, shall we?
The name of the game is remembering live in right relationship.
Yeah, this is going to be the mantra for today's episode, right relationship. Right relationship. Say it with me now. Right relationship.
First, we should start, for those that don't know, what is Passover?
Passover is a commemoration of the 10 plagues that came upon the land of Egypt and the liberation of the people from slavery. It is first and foremost, and I think this is what we as non-Jews need to take from this holiday. It is a constant reminder that once we were refugees, and so we need to treat refugees well. Once we were oppressed in a foreign land, so we need to make sure not to oppress others. That is the point of this holiday, and something that I don't think that we can say enough. I don't think it's something that we can remind ourselves of enough to keep ourselves grounded in the reality we need to be living in. Now, there are a lot of Jewish traditions that go along with this. I would recommend that you go and look at a channel like Seeds of Unity or some other channel that is run by a practicing Jew to see and understand those. They will be able to talk about them at a depth and with a sincerity and authenticity that I cannot, because I am a member of the Ger Toshav. I am a B'nai Noah. I am living in acknowledgement of and in right relationship with Judaism. I'm not a practicing Jew. So I think I need to explain those words. What's important to remember first and foremost is that Christianity and Judaism are siblings. I don't like the idea of cousins because I think it makes us feel more distant from each other than we are. The late antiquity, Second Temple Judaism gave birth to 2 movements, and that is what would eventually turn into modern rabbinical Judaism on the one side and Christianity on the other. Well, Christianity went through a phase where it was taken and held captive by Romans for 2,000 years. They're still related to each other, no matter how much one has been gaslit into thinking that they are completely unrelated and should have hostile relations with each other because Rome, you messed everything up.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, but in the spirit of the holiday, yes, Moses and Aaron are brothers, no matter how much Moses was raised among the Egypt aristocracy.
Like, oh my goodness. And they both just needed to listen to Miriam.
They
Let's be
both need to
honest.
listen to Miriam.
But they both
Yeah.
just needed to listen to Miriam. And for sake of this analogy, I guess Miriam would be the Jewish wisdom tradition because she is the living embodiment of Chokhmah. Like she is the wisdom that keeps popping up and getting punished for speaking out of turn because her brother had magic. I don't know. Miriam's the hero of the story. We read it, you'll see for yourself. Anywho, but it's important for us to realize that we are siblings. And a big part of my practice for the last 20 years has been living as a Bene Noah. In other words, reminding ourselves that we are the children of Noah, that we are related to Judaism, that we have a relationship with them, but we are not the same. And this is very different from what you might see in the so-called Messianic Christianity, which I do not want to cast major aspersions upon, but I know when I initially checked them out back in the 90s when I was leaving evangelicalism and trying to find a new home, I had it made very clear to me that it was a plan and a scheme to find ways to convert Jews to Christianity and not really a faith in and of itself. It may have turned into a faith in and of itself, but it is problematic to say the least in many ways. When I say that we are here to practice this without appropriating, I guess the first thing that I need to bring up is don't have a Seder. If you are not a practicing Jew, maybe don't have a Seder. I have seen many churches do this. I have known many Christians to do this that are outside of the Messianic Jewish tradition. And this is appropriating a core ritual of another faith into your faith. And Judaism is not technically a closed practice, but for most purposes, it should be seen as one. And the reason I say that is there are a lot of rabbis who over the centuries have done outreach work of here are ideas that in trying to be, the light of to the nations, they have shared teachings and practices with those outside of the Jewish community to try to help us live in right relationship with the world. So there are practices and teachings that are out there that have been made freely available for people outside of that community to practice. But it's the only way I've gotten a lot of Christians to understand this is it is as weird for a Christian to perform a Seder as it would be for a rabbi to perform the Eucharist.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
These are seminal core practices within each respective faith that have a lot of similarities to them. Our Eucharist was born out of a Passover Seder, but it is not a Passover Seder. The meaning, the purpose, even what is done, because if you actually look, Jesus actually had two different goblets of wine on the table. And the one that we think of as this is my blood was actually a separate glass from the first one where he gives a more Passover style prayer over it. So he actually had two glasses of wine of unleavened bread on the table. Just an interesting point that most people miss out in how this works.
I would say if you really are truly seeking that experience, a conversation with the rabbi, see if maybe they would invite you with the full expectation that it's okay if you're not invited. Like, it would be once again for especially thinking like Catholics and stuff when it comes to the Eucharist, like it would be like allowing a non-Catholic to come in and partake of the Eucharist. So if the community's okay, if you have a rabbi that's okay with that, then okay. But once again, don't push yourself into an invite. Want to approach that even in right relationship of just going, I'm really curious about this. I would love to, if it's okay with the community, maybe to be there. But if it's not okay, that's okay too. I understand. A very passive invite request, I guess you could maybe ish.
I have to say, making it known that you're open to an experience is a good thing to do. But
yeah,
can you imagine if you had a friend that was like sitting there going, I wish I could go to your Easter dinner. I've heard so many great things about the Easter brunch that your family does. Like, it would be awesome if you invited me to that. Like that's a bit of pressure that you're putting on somebody. So be very careful and very mindful about this. I have participated in several Seders over the years where I was invited to participate and to be a part of them, and also know your place in there if they are clear about how to dress. And do ask, because depending on the family, there will be different levels of propriety in what is appropriate to wear and how you should arrive. You are a guest. If you are invited to the table, make sure that you act like a good guest. Also, don't shop at Trader Joe's because for some reason they think you can bring challah to Passover, and I'm still not okay.
I think at this point, we should also bring up with the living in right relationship. During this time period, no yeast, supposed to be unleavened bread,
No leaven.
no leavening.
You're supposed to clean the house entirely to make sure that there's no leaven. Not even an inch of it left in the house. Yeah.
Imagine if you spent a week detail cleaning your house and you invite a friend over and they wear muddy boots and they just go walking through the house with those muddy boots on, dropping clumps of mud everywhere. Imagine how freaked out you'd be. This is the same level where like a week, maybe even more, have been spent in preparation and cleaning the house and making sure no yeast. So be very mindful. Not appropriate to bring a beer over. Anything has yeast in it. Yeah, don't bring a beer over.
This is why I'm so certain that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, horribly named movie, got the Grail wrong, because they're like, what would a poor peasant carpenter have at the table? Jesus was a practicing Jew, so it would have to be something that would be classified as impermeable, which at the time meant nothing made out of clay or wood.
Yeah, nothing porous.
Nothing porous, because that could have the yeast in it. You can't just, no.
If you're coming over to help prep and you want to bring your knife and cutting board, do not bring the wooden cutting board.
And stone. It would have been stone. Just the cup used at the Last Supper, what we know from archaeology is if you had a lot of money, you actually had fine Greek glassware that you would have at the table, but only if you were extremely wealthy. It was a sign of opulence and wealth to have glass or metal at the table. You would have had something made out of stone. And we know that most of the stoneware that was used in this period, especially in Judea and in the Galilee, were actually carved from carnelian. So they would have been these beautiful carnelian cups that were carved out of stone. So that, it could have also been other stones, but it would have been something like that. Remind yourself that you are a guest and be very respectful. I think this is what causes a lot of bad blood between all religions, is people don't understand how to act when invited into somebody else's house. I remember when a friend of mine and I, this was not Brian, I'm not covering for Brian. This was actually before I met Brian, went to visit a mosque, and I understood that we would have to take our shoes off. I had made a mention to a friend of mine to make sure he was wearing good, clean socks before we went to visit the mosque, because I knew that we would be asked to take our shoes off at the door before going in to talk to the imam. And I think they thought I was being motherly or something, and they threw a stink about taking their shoes off because they didn't listen to me and had a hole in their sock and didn't want to show off the hole in their sock. It was a whole thing. And it became a whole thing that didn't have to be a whole thing, because understanding what can be expected of you in that situation. And like I said, that's really going to vary from family to family, because I have been invited to Seders that were very comfortably dressed. And I have been invited to Seders where I felt like I needed to go rent a suit. Like I wore my good clothes, and then when I got there, I felt very underdressed because they dressed extremely well for it. It really depends on the family. Ask ahead of time, make sure you are being a good guest. But if you're not attending a friend's Seder, there are ways that we can celebrate and practice Passover. And especially in the United States right now, and this is also something that is happening around the world, finding ways to support refugee causes, I think, is the primary way that we can show solidarity with the spirit of Pesach, with the spirit of Passover, and honor it in our own way. Because a large part of the actual ritual that is performed is this reminder that we were strangers in the land, that we were treated badly, and that we should not do that to others. This is the great reminder that happens during this ritual. And when we look at what's going on here in the United States, in our country, I get very worried about the health and safety of our country. And I'm not somebody who believes in a wrathful, vengeful God that sends storms and plagues and stuff to punish people, but I've looked at the weather and the health of my country, and it made me question that belief. I'll just say it that way. It's made me question that belief a little bit, because we have been extremely inhospitable to the refugees amongst us. We are doing terrible things. We recently, as a country, and this is a sin on all of us, by the way, because we are a democracy, deported an innocent man to a notoriously vicious prison in El Salvador that we know is innocent because of a clerical error, and our government is refusing to bring him back, even though that we know he's not supposed to be there. They did an oopsie, but they're expecting him to just suffer because they cannot show weakness by undoing a thing that they did wrong.
On top of that, if you're to take what the El Salvador president said in his little speech, we're paying for them to be imprisoned there. So on top of them being imprisoned there and being wrongly imprisoned there, we're paying to keep him in prison.
Yep.
It's not like they have to go and pardon him or whatever. Excuse him. No, technically we stop payment, he'll be thrown out of prison. Yeah, even more.
And so with the focus of this holiday, we're in this, like Brian said on the episode about remembering our true selves, that we are all migrants, with the exception of possibly a few people in Africa that are still living in the valley that our species originated in. And I don't even know if they are the original indigenous population. There's a good chance that they migrated into that territory sometime afterwards. I don't know that anybody has lived, like any people group has lived in that place the entire time. We're all migrants. We have all moved. We have all had the experience of being strangers in the strange land, whether it's us now or our ancestors before us. And to me, this is the importance of doing genealogy, right? When I was looking into my past, one, it was because there's a lot of weird stories about where my family's from that, depending on which side of things is telling the story, are contradictory. Like, it really didn't make sense that my mother's family were from England. It really didn't make sense. And I could hear from one of my great aunts that probably wasn't true, but she would always say that with hushed tones, because that wasn't something she was supposed to talk about in the family. And come to find out that no, they actually came from the Netherlands, and that they were originally Dutch Jews that immigrated to the United States, and they were trying to erase the memory of that from our genealogy. So they pretended that they were from England because they could assimilate into American culture. But I know this about my family now. I know my ancestor that came over from Ireland as an indentured servant. I know his name. I know where he lived. I know where he was born. I know where he gets buried. And that helps me to remember how my ancestors came here, right? My ancestors did not all get on boats of their own accord and travel across the ocean to get here. Now, indentured servitude is not as bad as what we did to the Africans that we brought over. I think people make too much out of indentured servitude by comparison. No, it was worse to be enslaved in the United States than an indentured servant. Much worse. But there's always this kind of narrative of our ancestors came to this land seeking freedom. At least the ancestor that gave me my last name did not. That is not how they ended up here. It's not why they were here. They were forced into indenture and brought here. So that reminds me of my relationship to this land.
For myself, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
And for myself, that it reminds me too that with my ancestry, my ancestors did choose to come to this land at different points in time, but they were seeking a new start. They were seeking a fresh start. They were still refugees. A chunk of my ancestors were part of the original settlers, the original colonies. Thankfully, they seem to be making some of the smarter choices in the settling, more of the we should be getting along with everybody and not just grabbing everything. It was nice to see they were against the witch trials. They were large landowners in the colonies there. And in other parts of my family had immigrated. They were refugees fleeing Russia's invasion before Russia invaded in World War I into Europe, and they were fleeing that persecution. And it's helpful to, as Charlie said, to be mindful of that and know that history there. That even for myself, like in the States, yes, my family goes way back to the original colonies. Along with that, they were refugees to this land. They were fleeing oppression in England, or fleeing oppression in Europe, or fleeing French oppression. Maybe mischief makers in France. I'm not sure. That's still up in the air, but one of the two.
While it can help to have that personal connection, I don't think it's necessary to have empathy. Because remember, we are living on stolen land here in the United States. And it's important for a lot of us to remember who around the world may be living in a colonized area who are descendants of those colonizers. We are living on stolen land. And we are, in fact, the strangers in this land still. And we have not treated the people who were here before us. And we're treating the people who have arrived here after us bad too. And the amount of inhospitality, my mouth is not wanting to say that word. The amount of inhospitality that we are committing corporately. Because remember, and this is something that we have to take seriously as we live in a democratic nation or even an oligarchy or whatever our country is turning into. Power is not taken, it is given. No one seizes power. This is the great lie that conquerors have used for centuries, if not millennia, to achieve their own aims. The point of force, the point of violence, is to scare people into giving up their power, because power cannot be taken. It can only be given. And in the times that we are currently living in, we have to remind ourselves constantly not to give up our power and to use what power we have to stand up for and speak out for those for whom it's far more dangerous to speak out. Because no matter how much we might feel under threat, speaking up against the current administration or whoever is currently claiming to sit in power, the refugees and migrants that are being rounded up are even more at risk than we are. And that really is the lesson of Passover. Remember that once you were strangers in a foreign land and that you need to treat the strangers in your land well. And hopefully we can learn that. This would be a good year for us to learn that. I hope this episode has helped you out a little bit. Hope it's helped you understand Passover just a little bit more. We didn't go into, again, a lot of the story or the ritual, mainly because at this point, I don't want to repeat myself because we are going to be talking about how that gets incorporated into Christianity's Holy Week coming up. So I didn't want to have to repeat myself, but also I think this is a good time to seek out Jewish sources and actually start that process of right relationship. If you want to know what is a Seder, what actually happens at Passover, now is a good time to look up and learn from them, because I think there are too many people outside of the community speaking with authority about people that they are not a part of. And we need to be careful about that. Let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, or CreationsPaths.com, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they will not let us know, so we will not know. So you can leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to CreationsPaths.com, click on chat, and you can leave a comment there. We will be able to get back to you. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us at Ko-fi and Patreon. I am CE Dorset on both. And you can support us through the Cash App, hashtag CreationSpirituality. Thank you to everybody who does that. You really do help us out more than you know. We're really wanting to make this our full-time job so that we can provide more of everything for you all and be a better support for the community. So thank you so much for helping us out. It really does mean the world to us. If you don't have any money right now, or you're not sure that we're the kind of people that you want to give your hard-earned money to, that's fine. But if we've ever said or done anything that has helped you out, please share that with others, because that helps us out more than you know. And as you know, I like to end with a prayer. I just felt the moves of the Spirit, so I'm going to go with this one. O blessed Elijah, who was called up in the fiery chariot to heaven, for whom a plate is put at the table at every Passover, and the door is checked to see if you are there. May you visit our country and visit our White House. May you visit our land and bring truth and justice back to us. For you are one who has always stood for the poor and for the downtrodden. Help us in these dark times, Elijah, and maybe visit the president or, any of the other people in power. You might have a busy night. Amen.
Amen.